Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ham, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios in Morristown, New Jersey. Today we have a great guest. A little intro from one of my other podcasting partners, Devinne Bravoco. Devinne, welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So happy to have you here. So let's give you a chance to kind of talk a little bit about what you do and why you're here, because I think that would be a good base to start. So take us through kind of like what you do right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate it. So I am with Just Divine Properties. It's me and my fiance who started our business about 2.5 years ago. We renovate houses and sell them for retail. We also do buy and holds, but we focus mainly on the luxury market and taking a house, kind of bringing it down to the studs and rebuilding it completely up. I love the design aspect of it. I love working with the team that we've built and really have such a great surrounding now. So we work all together and do a lot of design projects and do a lot of picking out the fixtures and picking everything out to make sure that it's within trend of the area that we're in. And then staging and then taking pictures and honestly just marketing it as every way we possibly can and just building our brand and building who we are. The biggest thing that we went into this business for was to really help people. So it's trying to find people that are in a situation that either need to sell that's not on the market or that have heard of us or been connected to us and how we can help them. Like if there's different ways that they're struggling and we can help them in a certain way or connect them to people, that's really like our biggest goal. And so when we get the properties, then it's just renovating them and it's off to the races from there. So it's been an honor and a amazing journey that we've been on since switching industries into real estate.
Yeah. Awesome. So 2.5 years, right? Mostly single family homes. And where do you do most of your investing, I guess?
Yeah, correct. So New Jersey, and I'm so happy that you're from New Jersey as well. I feel like we can connect on that way.
Right.
So born and raised in New Jersey. So my fiance is actually from Seattle, came out here to New Jersey. And so we've been investing strictly in New Jersey as of right now. We have plans to broaden that on the time to come. But for right now, we're strictly in New Jersey. We do focus on Morris and Union County. We try to stay within anywhere that's within like an hour of us. So just because we're constantly hands-on at the projects, always checking on our different trades, checking on our contractors, just checking to see, making sure that everything that we had on paper looks good when it's being built. So try to only focus for anything that's within an hour from where we live.
Gotcha. Where in New Jersey are you from? Just I don't know.
Yeah. I actually am back to where I started right now. So I love it. So I'm from Hunterdon County, Lebanon Township.
Okay.
So we moved back here after we both quit our corporate jobs in Manhattan. We were living in Jersey City for several years, in Hoboken, working in Manhattan. Both of us hating our lives. And so when we decided to make the change and started our business, we actually moved back to Hunterdon County, which we love. We both really flourish on living in like country life and being around trees and grass and people. So it's been something that we're just not going to compromise on. We like where we live and we're willing to travel to where we're going to invest because we love where we live.
Right. I get that. So let's talk about the corporate jobs. So what were you doing in Manhattan for 7 years?
Yeah. So what's funny is like from when I was 5 years old, I had always wanted to be an event planner. Like it was a joke, but like I had my grandma like make bridesmaid dresses, a bride's dress, a groom's outfit. Like I was like making her sew all these things together. I was planning weddings. I was like, my mom, I was driving her crazy, picking menus, and we were doing like weddings in the backyard of like obviously fake weddings of like friends and stuff. And so I always just had it in my blood that I was going to do event planning. And so when I graduated college, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, where I was going to go. I always thought I was going to be in weddings or sports industry, to be honest. Somehow or another, I ended up in the financial industry, which is not what I was planning on.
Right.
But you know how you make like weird connections and it just kind of flourishes from there. So
I sell title insurance. Like how'd I wind up here?
Exactly. Yeah. It all makes sense though, like when you look back at it. So my dad met some guy with like a generator when he was in need of help and he had a Rutgers sticker on his car. And then my dad was like, call this guy. And he was like SVP of investments. And I'm like, no, dad, like that is not me. Like I'm not good at math. Like I can't like put like A to B. Like it doesn't no, like
Yeah.
no. My dad, my dad's like this like little Italian guy who just like is that, Italian person. He's like,
I get
call him,
that.
Devin. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, right.
So I called him, ended up going into it was called the World Financial Center at the time. And I ended up interning first and then getting hired full time and had been there for 7.5 years. So I worked for Oppenheimer Funds, which is now actually acquired by Invesco. But I was an event planner for them for 7.5 years. And honestly, it was an amazing journey. Like I loved it. I loved the people. It was good until it wasn't. Like I think like I grew a lot in that time personally. And I just realized for myself, like, this isn't what I want. This is not the journey that like God has for me. Like I have different things in store for me.
Yeah.
And so when I got to that point, like I just was unhappy. And I realized a lot about myself in that time.
Right.
But I learned a lot. I met some amazing people that I'm really, really close with. And, I would never take that journey away. Like I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for where I'm at now.
Yeah. I get that. So, okay. So take me through like, how do you go from doing event planning in the financial industry to investing in real estate in New Jersey? Like, how does that, where do you make that jump?
Honestly, faith. Like you kind of like it just came down to, my fiance at the time, we were, together. I was traveling a lot. So we got engaged actually after 9 months of dating, and we got a dog. We were together and
Naturally.
we
Yeah.
were, living like the dream, like this is the best life. We're making amazing money. We both work in Manhattan. And like we just weren't happy. We weren't seeing each other. I was traveling so much. I would like go to San Francisco for like a dinner. I would be there for like 5 hours, turn around and come home. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like,
No.
yes, it was great. And like, there's two ways you could look at it. Like, one way is like, this is so cool. I get this opportunity to fly to San Francisco for dinner. Like, this is amazing. And then I look at it on the other side, like, I'm recently engaged. I don't get to see like my family. I don't see anybody. We're paying so much in rent. And I'm in San Francisco. Like, so, there's two different ways to look at it. So at first I was looking at it the first way. And then when I kind of like my mindset was changing, then I saw it the other way and I was like, no, we're done. So anyway, my fiance actually got sober. So 3.5 years ago now he got sober. And so I think that was the breaking point for both of us, to be honest. Like himself and his journey obviously is different than mine. But so in my journey, I feel like that was the point in my life that I really had to reevaluate life. Like I felt like I saw life like flash before my eyes, and I saw like how fragile life is and how much you can easily lose your life and change things. And so at that point, like I really, I was in the mix of reevaluating my job and reevaluating what I was doing. And then he got sober and I went along with him on that journey and saw him through that process. And it just kind of like, it slapped me silly. Like it slapped me sideways. I can't lie. It was a very, very hard journey, obviously for him, but really hard for me.
Yeah.
And so I think in that point, we were just trying to figure out like, what do we do next? Like, we're not happy where we're at. Life completely just changed, like our friends changed, our relationships changed, our everything had changed in our lives.
Yeah.
We were supposed to get married in September. We canceled our wedding. Like it was just like there was so much.
Past September?
No,
Oh.
like
Oh, this is going back. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. And so we just were trying to figure out like, well, what do we do next? Like, where do we go from here? And so we were always like interested in real estate. And my parents had a multifamily house that they rented out, and that's actually what paid for my college. That's, so I was around real estate. He was interested in it. And honestly, we just kind of dived into it. We were trying to find multifamilies for ourselves. The numbers weren't making sense. And we were like, okay, like, let's, it's not making sense. Let's not force it. Let's try something else. And so we actually invested in an educational service that like educated us, tried to teach us. And, like it helped us break down the learning curve, which, I know that there's good and bad to it, but at the same time, it helped us so much. And so we just really dove right in from there and just started our company. And, from that point on, it was like off to the races. He quit his corporate job and took it on full time. I kept my corporate job for like a year. And then it worked out that my company was going through an acquisition. And I was like, pick me, I'm done. I'll volunteer.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, like at that time, like, you struggle. You're like, what do I really want? And I was like so wishy-washy. You're interviewing for your jobs. And I'm like, I'm really good at my job and I know I could really do this well, but I don't know, maybe I want to try something different. And so, I think my wishy-washiness actually worked to my benefit in the sense that they were like, this girl doesn't know what she wants. Let's let her go.
Yeah, right. And then it just kind of forces you to, at some point, be like, I need to make a decision. And you are always going to hire yourself.
Exactly.
I would hope.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So what has it been like building a business with a partner?
Oh, like rainbows and butterflies every day. Right? It's just amazing. It's so question. Easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, obviously, with all of it, it comes a lot of new journeys and hurdles that you just have to kind of navigate and work through. And, I'm really grateful we have a lot of coaches and a lot of mentors around us that really have helped us. Especially people who are in business with their partner, because it's hard enough to build a business, let alone build a business with a partner who also, not for nothing, is recently sober, who's also trying to figure out life now. Yeah. So we did a lot at once. And, yes, is it recommended? I would not recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
Now being here, 2.5 years after starting our business, 3.5 years, gratefully for him being sober, for us standing here today. I'm so happy we took this journey. But was it easy? No, it was not easy.
Right.
But it was just putting one foot in front of the other and just knowing like what the bigger picture is and that you're working towards a goal and like we're working towards it together. And we both want it as much as like we would argue or fight. Like we knew that deep down, that's what we both wanted. So we're going to get there. It just... Right. Figuring it out was not easy.
Yeah, right. No, I get that. So take us. So let's talk more about Just Divine Properties for a little bit. Like, yeah. I know you gave us a quick kind of broad overview of like what it is. So take us through like, what maybe like some specific examples of like what you guys are doing, like the types of investments, like how you make them work, and the other stuff that you've kind of like the design side that you've added on recently. Take us through like maybe, because the first time we talked, you gave me a specific example. So maybe we could talk about that one or whatever you want. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So currently we have 3 projects that we're working on. We also have 2 under contract. So our biggest project that we have, and I guess biggest meaning the largest renovation, also largest numbers. We have a project in Chatham, New Jersey that we brought down to the studs. We're doing a big addition to it. It's around 2,400 square feet, building it, from ground up. So we're in the rough stages right now. So all of our electrical, plumbing, HVAC is getting roughed out. So it's been an amazing journey. And for that one specifically, we pick out everything that goes into that house. Like we work on, obviously during COVID, all of the prices of everything have gone up. The lead time to get stuff is really hard. So we work really closely with all of our subs, our contractor. I do all of like the design parts and like getting exactly what colors go in, designing what the kitchen's going to look like, getting into like the nitty gritty of everything. Is really what I handle. And then Justin on his side, he handles more of like the construction management, making sure that the people are there when they're saying they're going to be there. We have a great team that we trust, but you also have to trust and verify. So yeah, right. It's that journey has been a great one. And then we also have a project that's a quicker flip, we say. So we do it's in Union, New Jersey. And so that one is, we call it more cosmetic because you're kind of going in, changing some doorways, but in the majority of it, you're not bringing it down to the studs. Like it's a quicker flip. Like we're hoping to be in and out within 2 months and put it back on the market. So we have 2 different areas. So we try to do 1 to 2 luxury or bigger projects a year, and then 3 to 5 smaller projects a year, just to kind of keep, income coming in, keep our portfolio growing, and also get more experience because we're always looking to grow.
Right.
On the other side of it, we have a project now that we're working with a homeowner. So the homeowner actually hired us. We're doing all of the design and the fixtures, and redoing their whole first floor. And then we're bringing in all of our trades. So all of our contractors, we're doing all the contracting. They're paying us, we're paying the contractors accordingly, but we're doing all of the coordination. So those are the 3 projects that we have going on currently.
Right.
So they're all a little different in different ways, which, it keeps us on our toes and it keeps us growing. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of where do you see it going? But maybe a better question is, where do you kind of like, what is your goal? Like, what are you hoping to get to as far as like this business?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like we went into this with a goal of being financially free and having rents pay for themselves and by getting buy and holds. And so we kind of were, I don't love the word flipping, but we're flipping
Yeah.
to get like the cash to then reinvest into buy and holds. And so we actually have a buy and hold that's under contract right now, actually in California, New Jersey. It's on the river. But like our goal is to really get the buy and holds, to be financially free, to be able to spend time with the family, to, be able to grow a family, move to a house that we love and enjoy the things that we love doing.
Right.
I would never ever leave this business. I love this business so much. And so, maybe the capacity would expand, but we'll have a bigger team to help support us. We kind of have like we do have 2 people that work with us now, which is great. So we're a team of 4. We have an intern and then a project manager. So I think it's more so just growing in capacity of what we're able to do and growing in the capacity that like we know exactly what to expect and how to kind of, go into it and get out fast, but do quality work and really help people, because that's honestly why we got into the business to begin with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, and also, you've kind of stayed somewhat in the event planning side because you also help out with the Podmax Global, right?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I actually got introduced to Eric, who's the co-founder or founder of the Podmax events, and he was actually introduced to me by one of my girlfriends who was a colleague at Oppenheimer Fund. So she was an event planner with me, and somehow or another, she met Eric and introduced us. And so I was like very apprehensive to take the job at the time because I was like, I just left my corporate job. I have, I'm really trying to put my all into my business. And do I really want this position? But I loved Eric's energy. I love where he was going with it. I loved the team and what they were doing. So I did take that on. So I'm like I think the director of marketing and events. And so
Right.
I work directly with them for any podcasting events that they have. So they usually do like monthly events, which has been a great journey. And it also introduced me to podcasting because I would listen to podcasts, but I never thought like, okay, I could be behind the mic. I could do this. It wasn't a thing that I saw for myself until I really met them. So
Right.
it's been a great journey. And I think it introduced us in a way,
That's
that's
true.
how we met.
Yep. Right.
And it's introduced me to some really great people in the industry that I've been able to form relationships with and then also do business with, which is a win-win in my book.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what Podmax is.
Yeah.
That way, so people that are listening probably don't know or have never heard of it, and I've only heard about it maybe like a few weeks ago. So tell us a little bit about what it is, and then so they can understand it.
Yeah. So Podmax is in itself, it is a virtual event right now. They did do live events prior to COVID, but right now it's a virtual event. We have a keynote speaker, we have a workshop or a master class, and then we bring all of the hosts. So you bring quality hosts to the event, and then the guests sign up, and then we partner the guests with the host so that you're on a minimum of 3 podcasts. So if you sign up for a bigger ticket, you get 2 podcasts after the fact too. But it's really just like a great networking event. It's Josh Carey is one of the co-founders also, and he comes from the acting world, so he's the MC. He really does a great job at bringing everyone together, getting everyone's stories out there, and really feeling vulnerable and safe, and just an environment that you really can share and build relationships with. So with that being said, you go to the event. It's a 9 to 5 event. You get on 3 different podcasts, and it's a way to grow your network. It's a way to get your message out there, who you are, what you're doing, and how you can help others and how we can help you. So it's been a great journey being with the team, and I'm really grateful for the people that I've met through it.
Right. Yeah, no, it seems like a great event, and hopefully at some point I will get on there and
You
do my
have to
thing.
come,
I know. I
especially
mean,
now that we're having this conversation. I
I
feel
know.
like
Yeah,
it's a
it's like
must.
I have to now. Like I have no other choice.
Exactly. And
So yeah,
regardless of if you have a podcast or not, coming in as a host or a guest, like both sides of the mic are so they're so powerful, and it's really just about the connections, and you get quality guests if you're on the host side, but then if you're on the guest side, you have quality like it's just like there's both
yeah,
sides of it are just yeah, it's an amazing experience.
yeah,
So you
yeah. It
have to
seems.
come. The next one's December 4th, so I
All
hope
right,
to
I
see you
will.
there.
I'm literally gonna type it. I'm gonna write it down right
Good.
now, and I will be
Good.
there December 4th. So
I love it.
make everybody listening stay tuned for that.
Yes.
All right. So I want to talk about some stuff. In our initial phone call, we didn't really talk much about it, but when we were emailing and whatever back and forth after, you asked me if you could talk about something. So I think that you look at we just talked about for 20 minutes about basically your life from your corporate job all the way till right now, like on this show with me right now.
Yes.
And, just even in like the last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of, added stresses, a lot of different things. So mental health is always something that I've been very interested in and feel like it's very important. And then you asked me if it was okay if we talk about that. And I was like, obviously, so let's like maybe take us through like maybe some early things that maybe were some, I guess for lack of a better word, like triggers of like how you realize like mental health was something that you needed to, check in on a little bit more regularly, maybe.
Yeah, no, I so appreciate it. And I know it's a topic that not everyone wants to talk about. So I give you a lot of credit. And I really appreciate you being open and wanting to talk about a topic that, some people just push to the side. So
Yeah.
I think it's so important. Mental health, I think, from a young age, I did struggle with anxiety or depression. And I went through a different journey through high school that really it kind of it broke me. It really brought me down, and it it opened my eyes to see that like it's really important to focus on your mindset. It's really important to focus on your mental health and what you're feeding your mind. Your mind is so powerful. And so if you don't give it that time and that attention that it needs, what it could do, it could be so bad for you. And so, as I kind of went down that journey then of trying to figure out like how do I get better, what happens, and at that point like my doctor said it was like a biochemical mood disorder. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like
Right.
it doesn't even make sense. And
Yeah.
so they
It's
were
like a
just
made up
basically
word. Yeah.
yeah, and they were saying like basically a medicine that I was on made me react like obviously a very negative way. And then I got it reacted so negatively that like I was like on the floor crying. And I'm like, okay, I'm a freshman in high school. What would you like me to do?
Yeah. Right.
And so it was more so getting out of that. And like I feel like my journey just has like kind of continued on. And I know it sounds crazy, but like I'm so grateful to have gone through all of these hard things because it made me who the person I am today. And it made me so much stronger than I think I could have ever been. And so I was sexually abused twice, actually, one by like my massage therapist in Mexico on vacation. Like, I mean, really, like it just like, and I'll never forget that time because, it happened and I was like, when people tell you like, react, like do something. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I am like,
Frozen.
so I can't do anything. Like, I
Yeah.
just am like, please make it end. Please make it end. Like, I can't move. I can't do anything. Like, it was just like, such a horrible experience. And I mean, I was on vacation with my parents and like my brother, and I come out and I'm like a deer in headlights. Like, did this really just happen? And my mom looks at me like, what happened? And I'm like, I can't even put it in words. And so, that made me think of my body in a different way, think of me as a different way. Like, why did he choose me? What did he see in me that was like, I could do this to her and I can get away with it?
Right.
Like, how does this all happen? And so that like really was a turning point in my mindset also because it broke me. And then I was really grateful for meeting my fiance because he kind of took that out of me and saw that part in me that he was like, you're not broken, you are worthy. Like, don't put these words into your mouth. Like, don't make it into something it's not. And I remember going to a class and they honestly said, like, it's the same as like, what did you have for breakfast today? And I'll never forget this story because I was like, I had oatmeal with blueberries. And they were like, okay. And it's the same thing as saying you were sexually abused. And I'm like, but it's not. And they're like,
Yeah,
no,
right.
it's actually just words. And it's like what you make the meaning of those words into being. And, it took a really long time to figure it out. But once you put it in that perspective, it kind of almost freed me in a way. And so I think it almost freed me in a way. And then I had my relationship with my fiance, and I think it almost freed me in a way that was like the exact right timing, because then he began his journey on getting sober, and I was in the place that I could be there for him. I mean, granted, then I would struggle with anxiety. Like there was,
Sure. Right.
the
Yeah.
constant parts to that kind of trickle from it. But I just think, not, I think God has he knows exactly what is happening, and he puts you on a journey that he knows that you can handle, and he knows that you're strong enough for it. And so I
Right.
just think, that it's honestly, if I could say anything, like mental health is real. Like it's a real thing. It's a real struggle. It's not something that you're like, okay, snap out of it. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It doesn't work.
no.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard journey, and it's a hard thing because it's very, I feel like, still not accepted or talked about in a lot of ways. And it almost is shameful in a way. And it shouldn't be, because so many people go through it. And so once you're able to talk about it and open up about it, the amount of people that reach out to you, just like say like, hey, I'm going through it too. And you can kind of help each other through the journey. It's powerful, because when you actually are vulnerable and talk about real stuff, like how to connect with people it's something that it's just so powerful. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a journey I don't hope for anybody, but
Well, I personally think that everyone is on it to a certain degree, right? Whether it's like
yes.
on an extreme end or a very mild end, like everybody deals with something, whether it's like a confidence issue, whether it's just a perspective issue, all that kind of stuff. So like, different people I think different people experience it or realize that they're experiencing it at different times in their life. And then, maybe they didn't, like, for me, it was something where I don't think I really realized it until it was probably like a year ago. And then
Mhm.
I just realized like I had all this stuff like bottled up in me and like didn't really know like what to do with it. Cause guy thing, like just kind of like just keep
Yeah.
shoving it down further and further and you just
Yep.
don't deal with it, and, you just like, whatever. So, and then I thought it was interesting, like, when you talked about when your mom asked you, like, she knew immediately, right? Like something was wrong with you. And it was the same thing with me. Like my mom knew immediately something was wrong with me. And she was just
Yeah.
like, and that's why like I took some steps from that point to get myself back on track. But, like I didn't even realize that I was struggling. And she was just like, something's wrong with you. Like you're not the Mike that I've known for 29, 30 years at this point, so I thought that was really interesting because it was like a similar
Yeah.
experience for me, so
That gives me goosebumps, because it is true. It's like, it's really the ones that love you the most are the ones that can see through the silence and see through like the hurt. And I always say, like, you don't really know what somebody's going through. And so, like, honestly, be kind. Like, people are probably fighting a journey that you know nothing about, or
yeah,
like maybe you do, but they're not ready to share it yet. And that's not your time. It's not on you to get them to share it. When they're ready to share it, maybe you can help them, or maybe you could be there for them, or maybe you don't even know who you're impacting. Like maybe you're impacting somebody who has a journey and then opens up because they hear your story, but you don't even know the person, and you
yeah,
might never know their person. So it's really just, it's be kind. It's a journey that I don't wish upon anybody else, but in a way, I am very grateful that I had gone through all of it, because it,
yeah,
it really, it did. It made me who I am today. And I don't think if I wasn't sexually abused, if I didn't struggle with anxiety, if my fiance didn't get sober and go through that journey, like, I don't know if I would be where I'm at. Like, I don't know if I would have the courage, or, the strength to start a business and to kind of go out in an industry that I knew nothing about. And thankfully be standing here today and have,
yeah, right,
you
right,
know, it's, it's all for a reason. And, it's hard, but
yeah, it
worth
is.
it.
I agree. Yeah, definitely worth it once you kind of like figure it out. So let's talk about that. Like,
Yep.
how do you get yourself from feeling the way that you do to feeling at least better, not all the way better. Cause like, I personally think that like nobody has a good day every single day. And if they tell you that they do, they're lying. I mean, it's impossible. Like
Yeah.
something's always going to go on where you, like, maybe you just like, you might have 6 out of 7 days that are good. And like one day might suck, you know?
Yeah.
So like, how did you kind of get yourself over the hump to at least be on the track to starting to feel better?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I almost have to take like each one individually too, because I feel like each one is like its own self. And so like when I think about, being sexually abused, and this happened more than once too. Like it,
Yeah.
And I think about like what it did to like my thoughts and I didn't realize it for years. And so for a while I was like, okay, now judge me, but I'm dating someone that has a girlfriend, or I am dating someone that like wants nothing to do with me. But like I felt like I was not worthy of real love. Like I felt like I wasn't worthy of, someone caring about me or wanting to know about me or wanting to give themselves all to me. Like I was just like, okay, this sounds great. You have a girlfriend? Perfect. Sounds
Right.
amazing. Like that's not cool.
No.
But like at the time, like that's where I was at in my head
Yeah.
because I just didn't feel like I was important. And so I was doing like I was, doing stupid stuff to be honest, but like I didn't ever take the time to like actually think about it and dive into it and like why am I doing this or what's happening. And so it wasn't until, I got to a point that I was like constantly like upset and I was like always crying, or then like a guy would break up with me and I'm like, he broke up with me. He has a like it doesn't like I'm confused, and so I it got to a point that I gave myself a year and I was like, I'm not going to date anyone for a year. I'm going to take the time for myself. I'm going to focus on myself. That's when I went to like the class that, you know, made me realize like what I had for breakfast was the same thing of getting sexually abused. And honestly, it was like right at a year mark with when I met my fiance. And so I had known him before, but we never like actually like he had a girlfriend, I had a boyfriend, or like it just didn't make sense. And so at the year mark exactly was when we started dating. And so it really, it almost like came full circle. And then I thought like, I was like, okay, I focus on myself for a year. I'm fixed. Like I've done the work on myself, but like I mean, the work is never done. And so I got to the point that like, then I was at work and like I was getting kind of like emotionally like abused from different things. And I didn't realize like again how bad it was there. Like it's really just having somebody else to also have your back, I think is important. And so he made me realize like, are you cool with like how you're getting treated? Like that's not okay.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, how do you stand up for yourself there? And so I think it honestly was just like a constant journey of like me being so naive and being like, this is okay. And then somebody looking at it on the outside perspective and being like, you're not okay. This is not normal.
Right.
And like, learn to stand up for yourself. Like, don't be treated like this. It's not okay for like someone to scream at you or to like, that's not okay. And so it took that to then, go into the journey again of trying to reinvent yourself again. And then I think of like when he got sober, like I was like, okay, I'm good at this point and I'm gonna, fight this journey with him and I'm gonna stand by his side and I'm not gonna, nothing can break us. We're amazing. We're strong. And then I'll never forget, my friends were so worried about me. Like half of my friends stopped talking to me and I haven't talked to them since because they just didn't agree with the journey.
Yeah.
And the other half was like my saving grace, to be honest. And I'll never forget like my one friend, she would meet me and like the 9/11 like museum
Yep.
because it was in between like our two buildings. And I had lost like so much weight in such a short amount of time. And I'm like, everything's amazing. Like he's in treatment. He's doing great. Like I'm so happy for him. And she's like looking at me like cross-eyed, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she's like, you're not okay. And she's like, I really think you need to see a counselor. I think you need like we need to get you help. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I'm so grateful for people that, and again, it gives me goosebumps. I'm grateful for the people that don't just like agree with you or don't just like say like, okay, good, honey, you're doing good. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for the friends that look me square in the face and say like, it's going to get harder, even if you're like, you say you're okay now. And I'm very grateful because I got on anxiety medicine and I started seeing a counselor. And you know what? If I didn't go when I went, I don't know what would have happened because I fell and I fell really fast.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle. It was really hard. And I'm grateful for the friends that don't just sit there and not say anything,
Yeah.
and I'm
Those aren't
grateful
real
for
friends.
her.
Real friends are just gonna like, I mean, that's why. I mean, I like one of my best friends. Like he was always been the guy that like even like I wouldn't say anything, and he would just like call me out of the blue,
Yeah.
be like, "Hey, just want to see how you're doing," and I'm like, "Oh my god! Like, how do you know that like this was the moment that you should have called me?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just like stuff like that. I just think is so good, and like I would talk to him about stuff, and he was just like, "Dude, like, what are you doing?" And like he would try to get me back on the right track. So
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
It's friends like that like you can never let go. Like they're I'm just, yeah, I'm really grateful for, honestly, this whole, like all of my college roommates, like they really like, they came together and it's like, they were like, we got you. Like they were just holding me. Like, we got you through this. We're not judging you for it. We're not, cause then that's like the whole shame of things. Like people don't talk about addiction either. And so I didn't know what addiction was. And so we're going through all of this. And I'm like, I don't know my name. And
Yeah.
I'm still trying to work and I'm still trying to like travel and I'm still trying to like put my 2 feet on the ground. And, we got a puppy a few months before that. And I'm trying to raise a puppy and like, I don't know my name. And so I'm really grateful for all of the people that were around me the whole time because I always say that someone should have put me in a mental hospital because I was crazy. But I'm grateful that I wasn't, and that I'm grateful that for the people that really had my back and stood by me and helped me through the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about mindset a little bit.
Yes.
Like, how do you work on your mindset to do all these things while also dealing with all the underlying things that you will, I mean, to be honest, like we'll always deal with, you know what I
Yep.
mean? So talk about like how you've shifted your focus from, the bad stuff to the good stuff and how you could just keep pushing yourself forward.
Yeah. I mean, you can find bad in anything, I think. And so it's more so focusing your mind and really working on trying to find the good in everything because you can always find bad, but finding bad is easy. Finding the good sometimes is hard. And so it's like, okay, our business is really like it's really busy right now. I'm struggling, I'm overwhelmed, but like it's amazing. Like we're building a business and we have this much traction and so many people care about us and they want to work with us and there's good in everything. And so focusing on the mindset is really just making that mindset shift, is like focusing and finding the positive in the things that are really hard sometimes. And I try to work out a lot just to get my mind constantly moving. I meditate, I do yoga, I read the Bible. Like it makes me grounded. I honestly will just sit and like listen to like worship songs or just something that like grounds me and how it focuses my mind on the bigger picture, not necessarily, okay, right now I'm stressed because I didn't answer 10 emails,
Yeah.
or something like that. And so it's really just taking a step back and focus your mind on the things that matter in life and how it's going to change that mindset. And maybe it's more so like I'll take like an afternoon with my mom. Like I love like hanging out with my mom. Like maybe it's like we go somewhere and I leave my phone in the car for a little bit, or maybe it's I'll take my dog for a hike one day. Like, and it's like I know that I have 5 million other things to do, but it's more so being present to the fact that I know that I'm on that like tipping point and I need to like really ground myself again. And so like, what do I do? Or it's like, I'll take my dog for a walk and we'll sit up on a mountain for a little bit and really just, it's me and him. And I'm like sitting here talking to like my dog, like,
Right.
and it's more so just, I think, being present to how you actually feel and being really brutally honest with yourself, and then knowing the things that will ground you again or bring you back or make your mindset a little bit more positive. And so it's just being present and knowing those things and having them in your back pocket and being like, I need time for myself. Like, I need to recharge. I need this for myself. And when can I do this? Because I need to do it before I break.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. My big thing, I think what was really kind of got me back on the right track was just like, it was really like two things. It was like perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause like you said, you can find bad in everything, including yourself. You know what I mean? Like you could look at yourself and be like, how did I wind up here? Like, this is not, I'm 30 years old. Like this is not the plan that I had. And if I had done this differently or this differently or this differently, maybe things would be different and I'd be whatever, better off, or who cares? But then like I start looking at some of these other things and I'm like, well, look at all the other stuff that I can do, that I've done within the last, maybe just like the last 7 months of COVID life, like I've
Yeah.
done quite a bit, and not, I mean, I'm sure people have done similar things or more than me. It doesn't matter, but I think I'm doing pretty well. So, and I think the perspective thing is big. And then I think that like, there's literally, this goes into the perspective thing, but there's no way that you can go back and change any of the things that you've done. Right. So like, we were just talking about before, like no matter what, like we all these crazy series of events led us to be recording to this episode right now together. Like if like, it's like the butterfly effect, right? It's like if one thing had changed, maybe this never happens. Isn't that like crazy to think? But like, like you can't change any of that stuff. And like, so now you have to just like take today and figure out how you're going to make like tomorrow a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all happens for a reason. Like, there is a reason that like we had met and like we're recording this episode, and we can bond on so many different pieces. And so it's so cool that if like our journey didn't lead us here, like we wouldn't be having this conversation, and maybe we wouldn't do business together, or we wouldn't be able to connect each other with other people. Like
Right.
it all happens for a reason. And it's so true, because it's just being open and honest and really being present. And so, to your point, like, I mean, Mitch is the one who connected us, and he literally was like, hey, I want you to meet someone. And you're like, yes, I love that. Sounds great.
Yeah.
And so it was good for you. Like, however busy you are, I mean, we all have a lot of stuff going on, but you're like, yeah, I'd love to meet her.
Yeah.
It was just so being open and willing to take what is put in front of you. So I give you credit for that as well, because you've really done that during COVID. And, some people are really struggling with, what do we do? And it's like, how do you shift that mindset? And, some people have really struggled with it. And, at first you kind of are all blindsided. You're like, a pandemic? Like, really? This is happening? What's happening? Yeah. People are dying. Like, and like, then it's like, what can you do? Like, what can you do to still connect with people? What can you do to still help your business grow? What, like, and so I give you credit in that part. And like, I think of like what we did too, like all of this was happening during the pandemic. And then I was like, a lot of my girlfriends were nurses or PAs in the city. And I'm like, what can we do to help them?
Yeah, this is great, because I was literally going to like transition us into this, but I love that you're going into it, because I wanted to talk about this before we, get into the ending stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, good. Yeah. So during the time we, as a company, me and my fiance, like we were both in the hospitality industry in Manhattan. So we had so many different contacts in the city and what we could do. And so we're like, okay, we can't help save the pandemic. We can't help, all of these people that are, so sadly passing. There's so many things that we can't help, but we're getting these phone calls from our good friends, and they're just like, they're working so hard. They have no PPE. They have nothing, like I'm getting calls from my one friend who was a nurse who was wearing a garbage bag because they didn't have any, like, I can't. And so we're like, what can we do? So we basically partnered with all of the companies that we knew in the city that were in the food industry. And we ended up sending I don't even remember how much it was. I want to say it was like 1,100 or 1,300 meals to 3 different hospitals. And we raised money. We raised around $5,000. People came out of the woodworks with who donated money to us. And then a lot of businesses even, and I don't even know how they did it because small businesses were struggling at the time. I mean, the restaurant industry was struggling. I really don't understand how they did it, but they were donating so many meals and so thankful for us reaching out. And so we ordered, raised money, and delivered meals to 3 different hospitals in Manhattan.
Yeah. Did you have people like running the stuff on like bikes and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Had people. Yeah. I mean, I had somebody that was from Brooklyn who had masks that they were like, I can give masks to your friend, and literally biked them because, at the time you're like, I can't get in a cab. Like, do I get in a cab? Do I get in an Uber? Like, what do I do? And so he literally rented a bike and biked and brought 100 masks to my friend. And my friend, I was like, here's her number. When you get there, just text her and she'll come out at this door. Like, go to this address. I'm going to drop you a pin. Like, go to this address. Don't go to the front door of the hospital.
Right.
And my friend like comes out and she like, was like crying and she's like, thank you so much. And, that was only one instance. I mean, I had so many people that really reached out of the woodworks. And I mean, there was companies that like, I didn't even coordinate it one day. And my friend called me and she's like, oh, thanks for the meals. We just got 100 lunches delivered. I'm like, from who? Like, I didn't even organize that one today. But like they knew that because I literally had a schedule and I had 3 calendars printed out, one for each hospital, and what days and times people were working that I knew that I could get food delivered there, and I would send it to the restaurants. And so they were like, I knew that you didn't have someone delivering meals that day, and we had meals left over, so I brought them and I just dropped them off.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
It just, it was the only thing that I could think of to do to help at the time, and so we just used our resources, and that is, I think, who both of us are at a core.
Right.
And that is what we try to do with real estate as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. So, all right, we are going to move because this has been great so far. But obviously we can't be on here for forever, even though I'm sure we could talk for forever. So we're going to move this into our closing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight. Right. So usually we ask for your one final point. All right. But because we've covered a lot of different bases, we're going to kind of take like each thing individually and give you a chance to give a final point on both the business side and the mental health side, because I think both are important. So which one would you like to start with first?
Let's do mental health.
All right. Mental health first. So Under the Spotlight, final point on mental health. What do you got for us?
Mental health is real. Be kind. You don't know what other people are going through.
Love that. All right. So business side, what do you got for on that side?
Building a business is hard, but it's worth it. I would do it every day that I could. And I'm so grateful to be in business with my fiance. And I'm so grateful for where we are today and all that we're learning. It's important. And all of us, Just Devinne Properties.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. You just got to do what makes you happy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, all right. So for everybody listening, that is going to wrap up our episode with Devinne. I'm going to make sure that I put her contact information and any other links that she wants me to share in the show notes. So make sure to click on them, email her, whatever. She's obviously great. She'll get back to you like we just said before. I will put the Morning Spotlight contact information in the show notes as well. If you want to be a guest or hear us talk about a specific topic on the show, email us at themorningspotlight@gmail.com or go to the website, themorningspotlight.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Devinne, thank you again for doing this. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everybody else, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.